as it kind of turns out, I'm the youngest of six kids myself, and my family had me on skates at the age of two. So it is a little bit ironic that Grant also was on skates at the age of two, and yeah, like pushing a little Home Depot bucket. Like that's kind of how we've always felt like that's a good way to start, right? You kind of get your own balance a little bit, but it's been fun, a fun ride all along. But going back to the very beginning, Grant saw his dad speed skate. However, what he really saw was all his nephews playing hockey. So he just really gravitated towards hockey to the point where he would go to bed with a shinny stick in his hand versus like some little stuffed animal, right? So, we'd sneak in there and take it out of his hands, once he went to sleep so he wouldn't like clobber himself over the head or anything. But you just always loved hockey, loved going to watch my nephews play hockey. We tried to get him to speed skate. He did it once and then really never wanted to do it again. There weren't a lot of kids at his age level. So when he looked at this one kid standing on the starting line that was way bigger than him, he's like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not really racing him. Like he's not in your age group. You're just on the starting line together. So, he just like that. He liked the team aspect. He liked the hockey. And I'm one of those crazy hockey moms. I love to have a cowbell in my hand, and I've always enjoyed the sport of hockey, the fast moving, the pace of it. And Grant's just kind of taken it on his own and to keep chasing his dream. And we've been very excited for him and giving him the opportunity to help him be able to do that along the way.
And I guess a couple things stemming from that handing of the torch. You start when you're 2 years old to skating. Grant starts at 2 years old. I know he was talking about his sister who's also skating. You add into the mix yourself and your husband. How important is skating have been to you and your family members?
Yeah, I grew up in a skating family, and being the youngest of the six, where really only five of us really competed. But my brothers and sisters were successful in their own right, winning national championships and things like that. But I was the one that just, took it to a whole nother level. On my husband's side, what's kind of funny is he started in hockey. His mom didn't like the violent part of hockey and put him in speed skating. So she took him out of the hockey and put him into the speed skating. But yeah, how it turned out that Grant's in hockey, our daughter Blair is speed skating. She kind of more started out in gymnastics, but then had bad wrist issues and needed to do something else in the winter. And she's like, all right, I'll try the speed skating thing. And so then she kind of jumped in with that. And now we haven't left an ice rink. And, like I'm 60, I haven't left an ice rink, in 58 years. So, here we go. But we've just always enjoyed it. I think too, my husband and I have always felt that sport gives our lives so much. It's such a thing that can teach us so many great life lessons, whether it's being dedicated, learning time management. Even though Dave and I were in an individual sport with speed skating, we were still very much a part of a team and training together all the time. So even just how the team dynamics works, yes, a little bit different in a team sport like hockey, but having people around you all chasing the same ideals and successes. And there's just so much that sport brings to our life. And I think at the end of the day helps try to keep us active, which is important as we get older as well.
I gotta ask, one of the things that stood out to me when I spoke with Grant yesterday was he has the skating genes, right? Like that's kind of what he said. In a sense, you guys are a power skating couple that Grant gets to kind of benefit from.
Yeah, I guess if Grant wasn't a very good skater, it probably wouldn't be looking very good for myself and my husband being his parents. And for sure, there has to be something about the genes, right? Because he is an awesome skater. And maybe, some people might think he skates too much like a speed skater, although he didn't do that, but maybe that's just part of how much of what we grew up in. And but yeah, for sure, like our genes have passed down to our kids. But on the flip side of it, though, Grant and his sister Blair have worked very hard to hone their own craft, right? And yes, they've had their dad more so than their mom as their coach for Grant in the off seasons and things like that. But yeah, like both kids have worked very hard to get to the place that they are right now. And but yeah, if they weren't very good skaters, it would not look very good for myself and my husband, that's for sure.
As a parent, how proud are you to see Grant have taken those opportunities that you've given him and has taken a hold of that and now is playing for one of the most successful AHL teams in all of hockey and is continuing that path to, like you said, his dream of playing pro hockey?
We look at our kids and, it's not normal. Your parents have been in 8 Olympics total. I was in 4. My husband was in 4. And now our kids they're in skating sports. But like you said, they're the ones that have to take what they're given and then see what they can do with it. But I think like for myself, for my husband, we loved what we did, right? So when you have a passion for something, it makes it so much easier to give back to it day to day. And especially maybe when things don't go always correctly, especially like as we're learning more of the ropes of pro sports, we realize that a lot of stuff might be beyond Grant's like decision making or beyond, like he doesn't have all the control. So we kind of came into a sport of speed skating. We've got the control. If we win, it's because we won. If we lost, it's because we lost. But in pro sports, it's a little bit different. I think we're learning about that as we go. Grant's learning about that as he goes. But on the flip side of it, you've got to find that love and that passion that brings you into the ice rink every day. And I think, that's the thing, like I think back to when Grant was growing up, we had like a calendar on our kitchen counter. So he knew every day that was practice. He knew what time it was. He went down, he got his bag ready. I never had to say, okay, let's go. And he'd be like, oh, like he always had this excitement that I want to go to the rink. And to this day, at 26 years old, Grant is still excited to go to the rink. But you can't really teach that. That has to come from within. And we as parents then try to help give him the support that he needs to keep chasing those dreams and keep trying to find keep that passion alive and keep chasing after it and do what he loves. But it's been super exciting for us too, and I think super exciting on his side. But at the end of the day, it really has to come down to heart and what you want to chase after. And we're lucky that both our kids have found their passion and they're giving it their all. And they know by watching their parents, you need to give it all every single day.
And I think, Bonnie, there had to be a little bit of you as the Olympian, as the skater, as the one that has been growing up with skating all their life. When they took to that passion, what was it like for you as a parent to see that it was going to be skating that was going to be the thing that they became so passionate about?
I would say even to this day, it is still exciting that my kids found the love of ice. Grant with hockey, our daughter Blair with speed skating. And And that still excites me. I like look for like, okay, when's the next game? Okay, when's the next competition? I get excited for that, and it's kept this excitement of ice sports for me alive. Because obviously I can't keep doing it, right? So now I'm able to kind of live through it through my own kids. And what a fun way to do that. And, yeah, it's not always perfect. It's not, success around every single corner. For sure, there's challenges along the way, but I think, what my husband and I always try to do is to be there and to help them along the way. And it's patting them on the back when things go correctly. And it's being there to try to pick up the pieces when maybe things don't always go correctly. And I think kind of like our family motto has really been better tomorrow than we were today. Always trying to find positives in what we're doing, look for those positives, build upon those positives, and try to not let the negatives take over us. You've got to always try to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And I guess I always felt for myself, if I looked at things too much in a negative way, they tend to snowball on you and run out of control. But if I can control what I can control, work on those positives, work on the things that can make me feel better about today to get to tomorrow, that's really what it's all about. And I think my husband and I have lived our life that way. So the kids have grown up that way, and that, like, they don't know any different, right? So we always try to be a positive household and try to see the positives in things instead of the negatives.
Take me through maybe how you balance being a parent and then also kind of knowing the ins and outs of skating and providing those tips to your son. I asked him, I said, what was the biggest tip that either you or your husband gave to Grant? And he said, stay low, push to the side, I think is what he said. That was the phrase. What tips or conversations do you remember growing up? What was those interactions like when you were turned, I guess, from mom to skating coach per se? How did you balance that relationship?
Yeah, I think it's always important, like in our household. I know we're very unique in that, but trying to wear the right hat at the right time, whether it's coach or whether it's mom or whether it's dad. And I think there's for sure a time and a place for it. And, I'm probably more the parent side, where my husband's more the coaching side, and we try to even things out a little bit. But, it's also nice too that because coming from high level sports, we at least understand it. So we know a little bit about where the kids are coming from. And like I said, with Grant, we're learning more on the pro sport side of things, but still there's that athleticism part of it that goes with it, that for sure that I can relate to. And I think for Grant, one of the things that I'll notice when he is playing a game or whatever, and it's like, you've got to keep your feet moving, like, you can't slow down, like. And of course, growing up with two sprinter parents, Grant is a sprinter. I can see kind of at the end of those shifts, and I'm like, that's where you really got to keep your feet moving. And then I switch into mom gear. So, like, I'll see some things, and, it's also funny too with his sister always growing up watching her older brother play hockey. She too gets critical of what's going on and what isn't going on. So he might kind of get it from the three of us. But on the flip side, he always knows that we're trying to help him. And like I said, it's not always the bad things, it's the good things. Oh, I really like this move here, or, whatever it is. Like I said, we do try to find the positives, but you can't forget about maybe the things that aren't going right, to build upon those and fix them for tomorrow because you want to get better tomorrow.
Obviously Grant, came after that time, right? And you had all this success and you're a high performance athlete and you're seeing the pinnacle of your sport with the best of the best in the entire world. How do you transition from that competitive life into parenthood?
I think probably the year after I retired was one of the most challenging. It's almost like it was an addiction, right? Because your whole being is consumed by, sport, and then to all of a sudden stop it. A couple of things, number one, I went out when I felt I was ready. I think a lot of people either leave the sport too soon or too late. And I felt like I kind of did it at the right time where many athletes might retire after an Olympics. But for me, the year after my 94 games, our world championships is in what is in my hometown right now, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so I knew I wasn't ready to retire yet. So I knew I was going to go one more season. So, going one more season, I felt like I could leave on my own terms and that nobody was pushing me out of the sport. I didn't have an injury forcing me out of the sport. So that helped. Although when the smell of wet leaves in the fall came around and I wasn't in Germany somewhere and I was here and on a run, and I'm like, I just started bawling. I'm like, oh my God, like I should be in Germany right now, and I'm here in Wisconsin. And so yeah, there for sure were frustrating times of sadness that I missed of the sport. And then at that point, Dave was still skating. So I still had a little bit of it, which helped me to get out of it on a little bit easier of a basis. And then let's see, then my next frustrating part was at the games in Nagano, where my husband was there at the time, and I was like 5 months pregnant with Grant. And I remember like walking into the stadium for speed skating and thinking, oh my God, I'm not here, and I'm not, I'm here, but I'm not skating. And I'm crying again. And yes, it could have been emotion from hormones or whatever, but when so much of your life was skating was so much a part of my life, and for it to be done, it was frustrating for that time being. But yet again, like I said, I left on my own terms. So I had moments of sadness, of I guess withdrawal. But at the end of the day, I knew I left when I was ready. And that kind of helped things. But then when my kids came around, I'll never forget being at the Sochi Olympics, and my husband sent me a video of my daughter Blair on speed skates for the first time. And I'm like, oh my God, like sign her up. And then she went into the turn, and I'm like, okay, well, let's not sign her up quite yet. so, so yeah, like having the kids be involved in ice sports to kind of keep my husband and I in it in one way or another has really been a joy of my life. And yes, if they were to leave it tomorrow, I'd be totally fine too. But the ride that I'm having with them for sure puts a smile on my face every day. And yeah, like the joy that I see in them with their sport, going after their hopes, going after their dreams, and but also being there to help pick up the pieces as a mom, maybe when that day doesn't go correctly too, and maybe kind of having that understanding of high level sport and what it's all about, that hopefully I can say the right thing to kind of make it better for them and get them ready for tomorrow.
I'm sure it's a big accomplishment on the personal and mom side of things to see Grant where he's at now, to see Blair where she's at now. If you had to rank it amongst, all those medals and getting to see Grant take the ice for the first time on a pro hockey rink, like where does that land for you in terms of the accomplishments that you've had in your career?
Yeah, I think the accomplishments that I had in my career are well beyond what I ever imagined. So, and I think, and I've shared with the kids too, like what I did is not normal. So, like, I get that. Like, I get the, even just going to 4 Olympics isn't normal. So, for sure, winning 5 gold and the bronze is not the normal everyday American. So, I know I'm not in a normal spot just to begin with. But, and I guess I feel too like what I did, nobody can take away from. But now I'm done with that. And, yes, I can put it aside, and I'm super proud of the success that I had and honored to have represented my country in the way that I have. Uh, and but now then you move forward, right? Then you get married, you have kids, and now life becomes about your kids, right? And watching them and encouraging them and being there for them. And I think probably Dave and I have a little bit different part of that within our kids' lives because of the sports that they chose. So us being involved in their life has been has really been priceless. But for them to be able to go chase their dreams, for Grant to be able to call himself a pro hockey player, knowing that that's what this kid wanted to do since he was like 4 or 5 years old. Like, how cool is that? Like, it for sure is something that's very touching to me and can bring tears to my eyes. Like, I know he's chasing his dream and he's able to do that. And depending how far he's able to go, I don't think that's as much of it is just this journey that he's been on already and where he's gotten to so far. And who knows what the icing on the cake can be. But I also know that if he was to walk away right now, he knows he gave his heart and soul into everything that he did. And that, as a parent, is something that I'm for sure proud of.